All right, hopefully everyone picked up a brochure, and we have quotes that are going around if y'all want to put them on your front and pen, because I kind of like to do that, but you don't have to. Yeah, that's cool. The spirit of the I come from. So I might cry, because this is really emotional for me. First, I just want to welcome everyone here. This is really special. I want to thank the people that have helped us. Becky I don't know what we would do without her. She's right here. She's our tech support. And then Lauren and Rachel and Abby and everyone, thank you so much for coming. Yeah, and for supporting us. So now I'll just get a little bit into my remarks. So why are we here? We're celebrating 10 years with Doug, which is definitely a celebration.
That is a deserve a medal.
Yes, we deserve a medal. But I just want to kind of point out, leading up to me meeting Doug 10 years ago. So I graduated from Georgetown in 2003, and I first stepped foot onto campus in the fall of '98. I have so many memories about this campus, but the first one being my parents moving me into New South, right? And then I won't go through all of them, but I will share that I remember my dad being so proud. The reason I even went to Georgetown is because he was really politically involved and active in business. So I thought business school would be a great first step, right? And so another memory was when I got severely sick my first semester, and I actually was here at the psychiatric unit at Georgetown Hospital. Another memory was coming back to Georgetown because they were so incredibly compassionate, and I felt like I was a part of a community, which is not just a buzzword. They helped me get back into my classes. I withdrew from every class except for my art classes. And then when I came back on campus, I got my feet back on the ground. I actually was in the gospel choir. So I would attend the African American service every Sunday at 6:30 in St. William's Chapel. I can't sing, by the way. A lot of enthusiasm. And then I also was slated to be co-chair for Parents Weekend. That was going to be in the fall of 2001. In July of 2001, my dad died by suicide, and I was in Germany in a study abroad program with Georgetown. And so I did not finish that program, but I will tell you that 16 years down the road, I still had a connection with the program in Trier in Germany, and I was able to finish. And again, it just speaks to the community, right, around Georgetown. Yeah, so that was great. But when my dad passed, the dean at the time, Dean Puto, came to the memorial service. He didn't have to do that. That fall, when I was in class and 9/11 happened, the dean came to my classroom and he walked me to his office and he said, "I want you to call your mom because I know she'll be worried." And I thought at the time, wow, that's weird. Is the dean visiting every student? But it's just because we had such a traumatic time. And so I had mentioned earlier that I could have not graduated from another school, and I'm being serious about that. I really feel like I couldn't have. And so fast forward, we wanted to give back to Georgetown, and we wondered how could we do that. My family has a foundation, now a donor advised fund. I'm the advisor for that fund. And at the time, we were brainstorming. We thought maybe an executive in residence, maybe a fellowship. And then we determined that executive in residence would be the best bet. So for 10 years, we developed this position. So I guess it took 10 years to find Doug. And he's a great match because he's just very much out of the box. And he teaches these principles, really enforces them in a way in which I haven't really seen. I might cry, but I really feel like my dad's light is shining through all of you just by you being in this room. And so yeah, I almost sometimes feel closer to him now than I did when he was alive, which is really kind of strange to say. But it's a very powerful thing, legacy. And so with all of that said, Georgetown means a lot to me. And at 42 in 2023, I would have never guessed at 18 in 1998 that I would be standing here. And I think 2 takeaway messages I want to share with all of you is, number 1, you are all artists in some way. And when I was at Georgetown, studio art was my minor, and I didn't emphasize it because I didn't think it was lucrative enough. I didn't think it was flashy enough. I didn't think it was something my dad would even, really think it was worth following. But now I'm pursuing that, and I think the arts is just as important as business. So it's important to integrate that. And then the second thing is we stand on the shoulders of some really giants, right? And so everywhere we go, I think we bring a piece of them with us. And so with all of that, I'm going to share my I Come From poem, and then I will introduce Doug so he can take it away and lead our panel. So my poem is, I come from stardust, sparkling, twinkling, mesmerizing jewels in the sky, a constellation of ancestors dancing in the heavens, light years away, yet here, now, present, guiding my heart, blessing my steps, planting faith in a soil rich with love. I come from stardust. And now I'm forgetting that. And now I'm actually inspired by Jake's poem with the blue dot. And do you remember me sending that?
Yes.
To you? And so this is a good segue into the whole I Come From project. As you know, Doug teaches this class, Life of Work, and these poems they have the prompt, I come from. So current students, how many of you have read your poem, right, in class? Okay, so have you written poetry before?
No.
No. That sounds amazing. So
I keep giving him a bad time.
Okay.
He's a good flow.
He tries. No, he's trying. Like, it's like a solid C- on a bad time. Like, I really, that self-confidence that you have with it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right. But, so that's cool. You're out of your comfort zone. You're writing poetry. So I would sit in his class when I visited Doug, and I would listen to these poems, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's like heart-wrenching, right? Because it's taking a slice out of these people's lives, and you're seeing it and experiencing it. And so we started collecting these poems. And I have 16 poems and 16 releases, and you're seeing 3 people here. So they agreed to help, be a part of this. And I just hope that it grows and it evolves. And so Becky has my email address. You can contact her and submit your poem if you want to. And you can also be anonymous. I would love to have you.
And I hope this eventually leads to her doing a book that might marry her phenomenal images. I don't know if they're on your site, but she does great photography.
Well, Doug keeps saying this, but it's not about my photography, but it's about your written word. But the photography, I would create composites, because I'm a very visual thinker, and so I would want to see it versus just read it. So what Doug's alluding to is just having the match between the photograph and the poem. Yeah, and I have big plans, I just haven't shared them. Yeah. So anyways, I will give it to Doug. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's an honor.
For everything.
The more I've learned about her dad, the more I think he would have really enjoyed the world we're trying to create here. So thank you.
Yeah.
And she's shown up for every class, every time. It's really good.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
So thank you.
To say my class a little bit different is the understatement of the year. And 10 years I hadn't been fired.
Come close.
Yeah. but it's good. Now it's a privilege to be here. I mean, remember one time somebody came up to me and they said, I came to Georgetown instead of Wharton because I felt like there was something about this Jesuit ethos, but when I took your class, I kind of get it, because I didn't know what that meant. And so, as a lot of you know, we go through the meaning door, because you know, this is a very diverse world at Georgetown, even though it's Jesuit. And meaning is a broad door. We're all looking for it, whether you're an atheist, Muslim, Jew, Christian, evangelical, whatever. And I try to say, we're on the meaning journey, let's share with each other. But what brings us here this morning is one of the first things we talk about in the class, as you know, is we're all born into someone else's story. And unless I feel like you understand this story, you don't understand why you long to do this, how you view success, why you're fearful about money. Everything makes sense once you know someone's story. So it not only helps you understand your story, but it helps you understand those you interact with. I was mentioning, I think 3 days ago in class that I knew this family really well. We traveled the world. I really loved their boys, and one of them happened to be a champion athlete. He won the Heisman Trophy. And I was going to his, but the father and I liked his kids, but he and I were oil and water, because he's like really judgmental, in the box. Oh my God. So we avoided each other as much as we could on these international trips. But the son asked me, really said, it would mean a lot to me if you're at my senior football game, last one, and it was like a coronation. This kid is so big. So I show up at the hotel on Friday night, the game Saturday, and the next morning I go into the restaurant, right? I'm gonna have a bite to eat. There's nobody in the restaurant but this guy, the Heisman Trophy winner's father, and I'm saying, oh my gosh, I can't stand this guy, and I know he can't stand me, and I don't want to be in the room with him. But I walked over and said, Bill, should I join you? Yes. Okay. So I sit down with him and we started talking, and I said, okay, Bill, I've never asked you this, but I'm just curious about your story. How did you become you? So in 10 minutes, I went from disdaining this guy to really loving this guy and having compassion. Because he told me he grew up in a small town in the Midwest, and he said, I didn't find out until I was 38, but I found out this terrible secret that my father in this small town had 2 families, had another wife, and all these other kids in my family. And I said, Bill, how did that affect you? He said, I always knew something was wrong, but now the way it affects me is I just want certainty in my life. I want black and white. I want clarity. And I said, I kind of get it. That's his story. And once I understood his story, I understood what drove him. So I really feel like this is really important for us in this room to understand our stories, for me to understand my story, and then for you to understand the people you work with, their stories, because everything makes sense when you get the story. So then I'm thinking about, okay, Georgetown. So the last dean, David Thomas, a good friend of mine. So Davis, he's at Davis Morehouse now. Yay, I was on the board there for 14 years, grade school. And so when we met, it was great. We talked about Morehouse, and he wanted to go there as an undergraduate, but he got a full scholarship to Yale, but got no money to get to Morehouse. So his dream was to go to Morehouse as president someday. So we were just talking, and he said, Ted Leonis has said you have this crazy idea of a course, and kind of that's important that Ted thinks that, and we want to try it. Why don't we try it out? So we did. The first time I taught it was a 3.5 credit hour course over 4 days with 135 students. I don't know what that was all about. I thought it was to drive me out of the place. And we survived that, including I took them to a winery, which was another story, on the last day to look at friends of mine, Stephen G. Case, about a purpose, how to repurpose agricultural land for wine. Well, it was a good excuse to drink a lot of wine, and the students seemed to really like that. Anyway, but to go back to the story, so we're talking about how important it is to understand your story. A lot of you in this room have engineering backgrounds, and you're very analytical. Dave Thomas told me this is the most analytical, rigorous MBA in the country. He came down from Harvard. And so I started thinking, wouldn't it be great to mess with these students? You know, I love messing with them. And I said, have them do a poem. And they all freak out, oh my gosh, I'm not a humanities person. Woo. So I said, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you 3 words. I come from. And I tell you, wow. The poem, because I said, this will enable you to go deep. And that connects with something else. I said, your point of identity is when somebody knows your story, including the broken parts, the weaknesses, they connect with you in a whole new magical way. And so they started sharing. The first woman I'll never forget that shared, because nobody knew what they're doing. I didn't know what we were doing. She stood up. She had gone to West Point, African-American woman. She said, I come from a story of ambiguity. I was a warrior, but I was also gay. And she goes to this thing, and we're all there. Whoa. And everyone goes home and they're rewriting their poems that night. But, I mean, by the time we left, it was deep. It was really powerful. So these poems give us an insight into each other's heart. It's a way to capture that just talking doesn't do it. It really captures something. So I'm really grateful that these 3 former students of mine, they all got C's, but they're amazing, and they jump right into this and volunteered their story, and then Stephanie contacted me. And then, amazingly, the great Cheryl Palmer runs a public company out of Arizona. She shows up to speak at the class, and she's been amazing. She shows up. And then she says, well, since you all are doing this, I'm going to do it. It's like, whoa, okay. So she's going to share what she shared with the class that day. It's pretty powerful. So, without further ado...
Do you have a poem?
Me? I do, but I lost it.
I'm not surprised.
I know, I wrote it. I'm up at Craig Weather's place, and I wrote this, and I know it will appear someday. But it was so perfect, I don't want to try again. Okay, so now who wants to start? Tom, who wants to? Jake?
I'm happy to.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure.
And anything you want to say before that about your story or whatever, that'd be great.
Great. Well, hi everyone. Thank you, Stephanie. This is really a project of passion, and it's been a year in the making. And so it's amazing to finally be here. It means a lot. So I've been asked to write a poem every year of my life since I could read. And that request would come from my mom. My mom said, I'd say, what do you want for your birthday, Mom? And she said, I want you to write a poem for me. And this was a terrible answer because I wish you could say perfume or something, because it would just be this excruciating couple of hours where I had to write a poem every year. And that's continued to this day. And so anytime I write a poem, I'm almost writing one about my mom, because it's just like built into my bones. And so, a little bit just quickly about me. I was a clean energy lobbyist at Earth Justice for the last few years, working on Build Back Better. It turned into the IRA. Now I'm in the private sector working for a solar company, trying to make sure there's uptake of that law. And that's all relevant to this poem, because I'm trying really hard to put us on a decarbonization path, to do my small part, to make sure that our relationship to the planet is one that's sustainable. So that's really what my poem's about. And it's actually kind of inspired by Carl Sagan, and similar to the Stardust one. And so if you've read the book Pale Blue Dot, there's this great idea that they'd sent out, I'm forgetting which satellite it was, but I think the Voyager. Yeah, Voyager. And they said, they've been taking pictures of the stars, and Carl Sagan had this bright idea: what if you just turn it around and take a picture of the Earth? And no one had seen the Earth floating in space before. And it's this remarkable image because it's all black and there's a small mote of dust, and that's the Earth. And that's what we're all on. Everyone we've ever loved, everything we've ever experienced has been on this small, little, pale blue dot. And so, here's the poem. I come from a pale blue dot. Despite space's vastness, Earth's all we've got. After 13 billion years of upheaval, humanity arrived on the scene as we evolved into ever more complex proteins. Blessed with foresight and theory of mind, we continually jeopardize the future of humankind. As the world warms, business carries on as usual. Chasing profits at all costs has become quite delusional. A time of partisanship and growing distrust as evidence-based discussions begin to gather dust. In a race against time, fossil fuels pollute the air as climate's flame flickers, producing a flooding and fiery nightmare. To build a stable world for a future generation, I humbly submit my own application. While ecological harmony may seem like a long shot, we can rally together to save this pale blue dot.
Thank you. All right. Arsha, would you go next?
Yes, I can go next. Hi everyone, my name is Ash Gupta. I took Doug's class last spring, exactly a year ago. I'm in the Flex program and I'm graduating in 6 weeks. Super excited for that. And I currently work at an education technology company in DC. It's called EAB. I wrote this poem about my parents, who are also my best friends and my biggest supporters. But specifically, I wrote about their immigrant story to America since they grew up in India. I was a little bit surprised what came to my mind when I put pen to paper. I still remember I was doing it on the floor below this one, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to write about, and kind of just talking to my friend Cameron. And then I just started typing, and like everything kind of just like came out of me, and I truly didn't even know this story was inside of me. So I hope you enjoy it. So the title of it is My Indian Immigrant Story. I come from 2 Indian immigrant parents who came to America with little money but lots of ambition. A dad who worked fast food and a mom who worked retail while going to school. They worked nonstop, odds stacked against them in search of a better life. Alas, their efforts paid off. They managed to find their way in the great America. I come from 2 inherent caretakers who raised my siblings and me. They gave us the life they could not have for so long. Selfless and caring, they never let our dreams dim. I come from 2 parents who love to work. I swear they never tire. They caretake for my grandparents, they own a business, they even have a puppy, they inspire. I come from a place of privilege, to be handed many things that they were not, to have a family here to support me and to love me nonstop. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Kennedy. I graduated in 21. Doug's class was actually the last class I took, and I made a point that it was going to be the last class that I took here. I believe I was the last class of what we call EPs, and now reflects. So a little bit about me. I grew up in the area, but kind of the I come from thought is I watched my father kind of work himself to death. He provided for me greatly and gave me and my sister the best opportunities, but he was miserable. He probably overdrank. It didn't destroy, put a strain on his marriage. They're still together, but it's been rough go of it. He kind of alienated himself from some friends. And obviously I'm in an MBA program, so I'm here to take over the world and do everything, but my poem is kind of about trying to strike the balance, seeing what didn't work for my father, and trying to balance it out and see what's really important for me. So I come from a family of 4, but if it had gone to plan, there could have been more. The first to arrive after 3 bouts of miscarriage, ending the worries of a childless marriage. Being the oldest brought love, but much expectation. I could sense what they want without communication. I know they meant well and draw from their past, but is this what I desire, or is there contrast? My sister tries hard, though she needs lots of support. How much do I offer? Will I let her fall short? Do I instead focus on work to build my career? It should pay off with money. Is that why I'm here? Or should I have a family more than me and my wife? How much is enough to live a substantiated life? With the road that I'm on, is there something amiss? In 30 years from now, did I follow my bliss?
That's great. Thank you all. And Cheryl, thank you so much, not only for your friendship, but just for showing up here. I mean, it's amazing to me that these leaders come in, and as many that have taken the class now, I abhor the term networking because it makes a relationship a commodity. But when you love and trust people, typically they show up for you and you show up for them. And that's what we want to be to each other, But Cheryl's amazing, and we've gone some crazy places together, and she's a great leader in a tough industry, in a public company, and has retained her femininity. It's just fantastic how she's balanced all this. So she's a hero of mine.
Oh.
So thank you, Cheryl. And anything you want to say? And then if you'd read your poem.
Yeah, I'm just honored to be here, and Stephanie, thank you. It was really wonderful to listen to how this evolved and what you've done with it, all of you. It's wonderful. When I met Doug a number of years ago, I was at a crossroads in my life, and you can have a lot of success, but doesn't mean that life is easy. And tomorrow I'll talk about how I met Doug and what it did for me, but I had lived a very blessed life, and like I said, a very successful career, but I still had an empty soul. And sometimes you just need to surround yourself with really good people and heartfelt relationships to make life really have more meaning. So, as Doug said, the first time he asked me to talk, I read the syllabus, and I'm like, well, I've always got to write a poem, so I thought I would do it. And I showed up.
She didn't even ask permission.
And it was like horrible because I hate writing. I mean, the only thing I really enjoy writing is these annual letters to all my grandchildren, kind of summing up their year so they can keep a book for when I'm long gone. But writing a poem was horrible. But I'm glad I did. It was very meaningful for me. So, I come from a place with deep appreciation for this life. I am innately and forever grateful for the differences that experiences and people afford me. A lesson learned early and reinforced constantly, hopefully never too late. Living life to the fullest is personal and may appear irrational to many. And my beliefs and deep desires make sense in my head, but honestly not so easy in practice. But still my journey continues, and my success requires I forgive myself for all my shortcomings. But my greatest lesson and vulnerability will be learning to love the person I am, a lifelong voyage. I come from a belief that no one controls my destiny but me, a place that dreams can be my reality if and when I choose that path, and hopefully not too late. In fact, it's never really too late. Strength for this precious life comes from deep within and validates that mind over matter is substance over form, but the greatest gift is learning from the person I am, a lifelong voyage. The visit to Georgetown is so timely after months and months of extreme highs and lows. People are life's greatest gift, and sometimes such a perplexing disappointment. What drives those behaviors that are so unbecoming and downright wrong? I continue to accept it, but will there ever be a time that my whole heart can be fulfilled? Doug is always buzzing in my ear. Everyone has a story. Be sure to understand them. And your last story hasn't been written yet. So real and so right. But I know my greatest gift is sharing love to all. My lifelong voyage.
Great. No, wonderful stuff. I might open it up for questions, but before I wanted to just mention something Stephanie and I talked about. Gerald took my class. What year was that, Gerald? Do you remember?
2016.
2016. And Gerald has a remarkable story in and of itself. Came from West Point, but while he was here had a serious accident, had brain injuries, lots of operations and things. But one of the things that the class is working on now is a letter to self. And this is a letter that you would write that's going to show up, in your mailbox. They still exist. Show up for you, very personal, that you've read about what to pay attention to, what you're working on, where you're stuck, whatever you want that to say. It shows up in a month. So that's another piece of this story thing. And I wanted, Stephanie and I talked about that, like Gerald to come up and just talk about that exercise and what it meant to him. So Gerald?
You can't have me talk after Cheryl does that, though, with all the people to follow up with. Thank you. Doug starts off his class, and the first thing he does is, of course, quote Jesus and talk about trouble, that we're all going to go through trouble. You're either getting out of it, about to be in it, or you're in the middle of it. And I didn't realize how true that was, because of everyone that is in this class right now, Doug is the only one that would have met me pre my head injury, because a month after his class, I thought everything was going great for me. I'd been picked up early for promotion, been selected for all these great things with the military, and then I have this head injury where I don't even remember my name anymore, just a month after his class. So much that I don't remember his class. I don't remember that there's this exercise that he gave us. Several months later, I'm still in all of this pain. I'm sleeping 15 hours a day, still having memory issues. I can barely talk. I'm still learning to walk again, and all these other things are happening with me. And I decide, you know what, I can't take it anymore. It's finally time. I can't live in this pain. It's time for me to take my life. And I had a list of things I was going to do, from drink a Pepsi to just check the mail. Seemed like a very mundane thing, but I couldn't read actually still at this time. So reading was hard, so I had this stack of mail that I had from people, and I was just going to go through it. The very last thing was this envelope that I didn't realize at the time was this letter to myself. The exercise he had given us in the class was, imagine you're X years in the future and you're writing this letter to yourself. And so I'm reading this, and it's typed, so I don't know that it's actually from me. And I'm wondering, this is some joke or something. I'm just not understanding what this is, but the person in this letter is so full of hope. They had just gone through something transformative, and they're trying to remind me that, hey, things have probably been tough, but they're reminding me of all these other things that I just had experienced, and trying to put me back in that framework of what I had experienced in Doug's class. And the main thing it left me with was that if it hasn't worked out yet, it's just that it's not the end. And that was enough for me to at least say, you know what, today's not the day I'm going to do this, and I kind of was able to move on from it. It's now an exercise that I continue to do. I've been with Cheryl on multiple occasions where I've had everyone write letters to themselves, or I've specifically had an event with her in November that I made a video to myself over something, trying to celebrate all of the times where I've been in this unique mindset where I can reflect. Because what I got that day was also a gift, realizing that sometimes when I can feel the most alone, I'm not necessarily just out for the count. I can get those words of inspiration that can even come from myself. So it's still a practice that I have, so I thank you for giving that to me. Everyone that does a speech with me at different points probably dreads me bringing up a letter to myself, because it's something I've taken from you and continue to do, but thank you for that gift.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Gerald. So it can be pretty important sometimes. So let me open it up. Anybody wants to comment in the audience or ask a question? to anybody?
I have a quick question for everyone. So how has this been, like Doug's class, going through it and sort of reflecting afterwards? How has that been for you, and how does it show up in your life now?
So I'll say myself, I try to read that personal essay to myself once every 6 months just to remind myself why I'm doing things, what habits maybe I need to break, what I thought was good for me then, which still looks like it is still pretty good, but make sure I'm kind of hopefully on course with what I want to be.
Doug, you brought in these titans of industry in our class, and it was kind of, I was uneasy at first, it was perplexing, and yeah, you'd have like Craig Weatherup there, and it's like, so many, and it was day in and day out. And what I learned, as you say, is like everyone has a story, and these were extremely impressive people, but they were still people. And so I think that's a lesson. It's just like there's kind of this facade or distance that I think we all have growing up with companies or with people we like aspire to, and he brought them into the room with us, which was
almost to demystify him, to say, I remember when Craig spoke, he's the lead director of Starbucks, CEO of Pepsi, and he said, let me tell you, this great leader, the qualification, my freshman year, I flunked out and I got my girlfriend pregnant. That's the resume of a Fortune 50 leader. It was like, whoa. But they were real, like Cheryl. They shared from the heart. Thanks.
Something that I took away was practicing gratitude. So in the class, we had to write in our gratitude journal 3 things that we were grateful for, and I still do that. So I write in my except when I'm on vacation, because I don't bring it with me. But I do it every other day in the morning. It takes a minute, and I like to read back on it if I'm ever having a bad day, and just even if it's one word,
Good.
breakfast, and that means a lot to me to take that away from this class.
Okay.
So can I give it from a different perspective? Because I didn't take the class, but I've been to most.
Yeah.
First, I would say the online ones or the virtual ones were hard.
Yeah.
Because I think the connection is what has made them so powerful. And all the things you guys are talking about, don't ever lose it. Because for me, it's coming back, and it's you get so lost in life and the day-to-day responsibilities, and being able to kind of ground and remember what's really important. That's what it does for me every semester.
And I think, people like Cheryl and Jody did it in our class about the honesty about how lonely it is to be a CEO. And we need a posse in our life, people that we trust, that, love us, period. They're not in because we're a great leader or any of that kind of stuff. We need friends for the journey. And the question might be, why do I do this crazy stuff? Because I enter into it because I don't come into this with experts. How are you an expert on any of this? But I think asking the right questions are how you change. Rilke, the 19th century poet, said, learn to love the questions, and after time, you might find the answers. But analytical people want, what is the answer? And as Freud called it, this life is a riddle. We don't know what in the heck's going on most of the time. How do you make sense of suffering, setback, Ukraine, Putin, Trump, craziness, all kinds of stuff? How do you make sense of all this? You just say it's a riddle, and we just have to live through it and stay hopeful and keep growing. Anybody else want to say anything, or before we let you loose on the wine and munchies? Okay.
I have another question. So for those who've graduated, so Jake and Tom, any advice for people still in the program?
I graduate this semester.
Oh, you graduated this semester. Oh, sorry. I thought thinking you graduated. So Tom.
So my graduation was a little strange since.
Apologies.
No, because COVID, and so I finished in obviously summer 21.
Yeah.
And it made it somewhat hard, but I'd say probably made a good number of friends here. I've lost track of a number of them, but I wish I had kept better contact with all of them and stayed closer with the group I graduated with and the people. I grew close with my time here, so I'd say keep those connections alive. And you'll never know. Maybe it'll help you professionally, maybe it'll help you just personally, maybe you're just going to go grab a beer. But yeah, it's something that I probably wish I did more of.
Last word, Stephanie, before we wrap up.
Oh, at the last word. It's okay. So I know it's been a long day for a lot of people. That's a lot of pressure for the last word. Well, do you have a last? Everyone want to say a last word?
Do you have anything?
Wow, put us on the spot.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'll say is like I took Doug's classes. Like it was definitely something out of my comfort zone. I actually took a week off work for it, and I had no idea what I was getting into. But I find myself like reflecting on the lessons from that class a lot, especially right now as I'm interviewing and trying to find my post MBA job. I try to always ground myself and come back to the gratitude and like what's important in my life. And this is not the end of the world. And I think that class like allowed us to all be vulnerable together, where I felt like I was in a safe space. And I think it's honestly made me feel more self-aware. And at work, I feel I have like a different sense of humility that I can bring and just be more comfortable with being me.
That's great. Well, I think you should teach this next time.
I just have so much respect for what you guys are doing and investing in yourselves, making the decision to invest in yourselves on something so meaningful and important, because as you go through, like you said, your personal or professional life, you pull on it, and many people don't take it serious enough when they have the opportunity. Just later it gets harder. So just congratulations to all of you.
Yeah, I was thinking, remember that? My wretched sister. You remember that? You probably don't remember the quote by Heinz Christian. He said, everybody fantasizes, says, someday I'm going to have more time to really think about what really matters. And he said, that's a total fantasy. He said, I teach at Harvard Business School, and there's 900 students who think that, buy into that myth. But this is the time in your life when you have a chance to think and make decisions that really matter. Build these disciplines in your life to think about meaning, to give gratitude, to forgive. Start now. It only gets harder as you go along the journey. How about you guys? Any last word?
I mean, you took me out of my analytical zone, and much appreciated that. Very much, for the most part, results-oriented, like, let's get to it. But your class kind of helped me take a step back in a lot of cases, trying to understand where people are coming from, and it's been helpful quite a bit.
That's great.
Yeah, I would just say I'm grateful to you and Stephanie for making this possible. I think it really embodies this idea of care for the whole person. That was one of the main reasons I came to Georgetown. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just doing regression or accounting. Those things are important, and you know how to do them, but there are things that are also more important. And so, yeah, thank you.
So I think of that, let me close with Marcel Proust said, the key is not just seeing, but learning to see with new eyes. And that's what we need, don't we? Our situation might not change, but if we have different eyes to see that, and I call that perspective, all of a sudden, everything changes. And when you have perspective, you put all your problems you see it through a different lens. But we are much blessed in this room, and we need to use that for the greater good. But it starts, my biggest project in life is myself, and yours should be too. It's not to fix your partner, your kids, the world, but yourself. Because if you work on that, it brings a humility to any task you do in life. Back to you, Stephanie.
Amen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.